listening to the Nerds Out of Order podcast, Nerd News, with Michael Lobb and David Camus. Welcome to the Nerds Out of Order podcast. This is a podcast that David and I do on a regular basis. We cover topics that are related to technology and excite us or make us angry or make us want to talk about stuff.
At least they really do take us to a next level of conversation. Michael runs TeamScale and he helps companies keep software development projects on track, on time, and on budget.
David runs One Bright Cloud, where he heads up a team of techs and futurists looking at autonomous vehicles, AI, and public safety.
So, keeping on where we've been, we will be challenging our own perspectives and trying to see things from each other's perspective. We don't agree most of the time. We agree some of the time. Once you've listened to us, we hope you will at least will agree to some of the things we have to say.
And with that, David, what have you got to say this week?
Michael, what have I got to say?
Well, let's wait. How was Christmas?
Christmas. Well, that's right. We are 2 days past Christmas. I am feeling very full. I have a stomach full of alcohol and food, and I need to have a little bit of a food coma, which is why we're doing this podcast today, so that I can go away on holiday and relax for a little while. Christmas was full of exciting people, family, friends, and for me, the most exciting thing was rain. We had rain for the first time in 5 months.
Wasn't that great, though?
It was wonderful for us. People around us are probably thinking, who cares about a bit of rain? We've got snow, we've got rain, we got hail. But no, we had the first rain. We had 33 millimeters, which filled up our tanks. How was your Christmas?
Yeah, our tank isn't quite full, but it's on its way, and our pool has definitely filled up, and our grass has started to move from brown to green.
As we come over the mountain now towards our place, the brown grasses and trees are all looking beautiful and green. It's amazing to see the difference in just 2 days.
Yeah, it's brilliant. So what topics have you got for us today? What topic have you got for us first up?
Well, let's look at where we are now. We're just about to go into 2020, and we'll be raising our glasses to a new year in just a very few days' time. So I'm wondering, what will that bring us? So we've got 3 different topics, I believe, around about what will happen in 2020, 2021. Michael, let's talk about remote work and how that's going to change over in the next few years.
I work remotely sometimes. I do work from an office sometimes, but I know a lot of people who work remotely. Most people are predicting that remote work will increase in 2020. There was a dip a few years ago when companies like Yahoo and a few others decided that remote workers didn't meet their expectations and they started pulling everyone back into their offices. I think that's moving the other way at the moment. We do have a talent war that's heating up at the moment. So we have people who are highly talented and want to work from their homes or from a co-location or a colo office or from, the cafe even. People are going to be looking outside of their traditional recruitment methods and trying to find people who are best suited for the roles, and that will be regardless of where. And there's some really good examples of companies who are doing that at the moment. It'll mean that we will change how we collaborate. We already do this quite regularly in TeamScale. Obviously, we've got offices and workers and clients all over the world, so we don't necessarily have a traditional way of working. And it means that we've got a decentralized workforce as well. So we have, issues that other people don't have, but we do have some good issues as well. So what about you, David? Do you work at home often?
Well, I would try to work from home whenever I can. We have an office. I often work from the agencies that I'm working for. So if I'm working for a government agency, I might end up in their offices. I prefer to work remotely. I have a number of staff who also work remotely, both from a change perspective and from a technology perspective. But both of those we find in government at the moment have to be very localized when we're talking to government. And that depresses me a bit, because that means that we lose out on hours and hours of travel every day. We have people who then go into a workforce that has limited computing capability, sharing capability. For example, even Gmail at the moment in government is closed down. So if you utilize a Gmail account, you can't use it if you're logging on to a government connection. And that's
Does that
because
include like other Google services as well, like chat and docs and things like that?
I found that mainly it's the Gmail accounts themselves. Right. So if I forward a Gmail document to my to a different server, I can then use it on Google Docs and still utilize that capability. But I don't know. I just find it very annoying, and I think government needs to think about how they're setting up their technology partners and how they need to bring them online.
Yeah, and I think a lot of companies now are building their technology around the idea of decentralization. So in the past, you'd have a server room with a bunch of servers and a network that you controlled, and the connection to the internet was controlled, and it still is in some cases, obviously. And everything that you did happened within that network, and you were allowed out of that network by exception. The opposite's happening. We just want an internet connection that has access to the world, and we should be able to access the things that we need to work from that internet connection. We use VPNs for anything secure. So if we need to, log into a server, then we've got a specific VPN that we go through and things like that. We also use two-factor authentication to keep security up. There's a number of other security things that we use. And governments all around the world are using this to their advantage. So obviously Australia might be a bit behind that.
Oh, well, there's some agencies that I think are ahead of the game, and there's some agencies that are behind the game. They all have the capability of doing it. But I know that there's a very large agency that I've been working for recently, and they still have major issues with keeping their firewall open. Oh, right. And that therefore means that using cloud capabilities, putting private information in the cloud, if the firewall goes down, the connection to the cloud goes down, then there's downtime. So even the larger agencies are having problems. When you are talking about having more people working from a decentralized workforce, do you see any particular roles coming up?
Look, I work in the software development space, so coders are obviously, very talented coders like to work from their dark room at home at night, and when nobody else is watching, drinking lots of Red Bull. I find that project managers and business analysts and things like to communicate they do a lot of communication. I mean, we sit on Slack or on Google Hangouts most days, and that's where most of our conversation happens. Outside of that, obviously, I can't see. There's some roles that obviously don't suit remote working, like running a cafe, for example. And I'm sure that there are other things within the technical space where it's better to be in a room together. I do think that being in a room together around a whiteboard does speed things up and allows you to communicate in a way that you can't do over the internet. What are your thoughts?
I'll interrupt you there. We do a lot of large projects, and I've been doing them all around Australia where I can't bring people together. So we have virtual whiteboards where we have virtual meeting rooms. You can see each other. It feels like you're in an office. And we have full project meetings, working out whiteboards with everybody drawing on the whiteboard. And we can still do that. The capability and the technology is there if we want to use it.
Yeah. Yeah, and we use things like Google Docs, which allow sharing in real-time collaboration, which helps. And often, in order to get that real office feel, we'll dial up and talk to each other while we're actually writing things down.
You actually
which we
write
just
things
did before
down?
which we just did before this episode. Yeah, I do draw sometimes. Like I'll take a photo of a doodle that I've done on my pad that I keep beside my desk all the time, and I'll put that little diagram I'll copy and paste that into the document that we're working on at the time, so that everyone can see what I'm doing. We don't use virtual whiteboards. We're obviously, they're expensive at the moment. There are some apps out there that you can use your iPad, for example, as a whiteboard, but not. To me, I
sorry. Would that be one of those Apple things?
If
or do we not bring
in
Apple Android at the moment?
I don't have a problem either way. I actually have a Samsung tablet, so I don't really have a preference for either.
Oh, you surprise me.
Yeah, I've got a Samsung tablet, and I've got an iPhone, and I use a Mac. What about you?
I thought you were Apple through and through.
No.
I thought I was the Android person.
I use what is the best thing for the job, and the tablet that I've got, I write a lot of notes on there, and it's nice to have something outside of the ecosystem as well.
Yeah, and recently you've introduced me to Fiverr, and that provides a lot of graphics design and digital marketing, that sort of thing. And they are all decentralized workforce. I now use that decentralized workforce to do logos and other pieces of graphics that I need. And since you introduced me, I've probably used them 24 times, and I'm really quite enjoying it.
Services like Fiverr, Upwork, TopTill, a few of those other things. If you've got a specific piece of work that you need to have done, and you are willing to manage that piece of work, and you are very specific about what you want done, then that works great. If you're trying to design something as you're going, they don't work very well. And that's where we come in, because a lot of companies go out there and look at Upwork and go, don't worry, I can get a developer for $4 an hour, and then don't realize the amount of effort that goes into managing a development team, especially when they're decentralized.
That's right. Yeah, I agree with that. And again, it comes down to what you said at the beginning. It's having the best people for the job, regardless of where they are. And
correct.
Businesses are now looking at the fact that hard copy CV in front of them is not often the best thing for them. They need to start understanding where that person is from, how that person is reactive, and what they've done in the past.
Yeah, and where they fit into their their family and their social life as well, because that's always important to understand. If you're not in the same office as someone, you still need to be able to get on, and you still need to have things to talk about outside of just work, so that you can relate to people.
Okay, well, you say work outside of work. The reason I do a lot of decentralized work and I work from home is for work-life balance, because I live an hour and a bit out of town, and so there's a couple of hours every day that I lose on top of my work. And if I can have my work-life balance, I get to see the children more, I get to see my wife more, and it really works for me. Do you think work-life balance will increase, stay the same, or decrease over the next couple of years?
It's a really interesting question. There's been a few posts on LinkedIn in the last week. A lot of people get reflective around this time of year, including me. And one thing that I have been seeing quite consistently is about how we've got to stop the boasting about how many hours we work and how hard we work and all of that stuff. If you're working 80 hours a week, you're doing something wrong. Don't you think?
Yeah, I think you're right. In many ways, I look at myself and I've got a number of businesses that I keep up. I do a number of project boards. I do a number of company boards. My hours are all on and off throughout the day and night. So I probably are a very poor person to say that the number of hours you do. Generically, I would hope...
But the time that you spend is... You get the value. You don't sit in an office doing nothing.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, the value of the time that you spend is actually quite high. And I think that some people think that spending 80 hours in an office a week is like, I'm working so hard, but it's not. It's not about the time. It's about the quality of the time that you're spending there. And then, the quality of the time that you're spending with your family afterwards, or your friends, or in my case, my dogs.
And it's proven that if you have a better work-life balance, you actually are more productive. And I really like the fact of having productive people around me. And I push that quite strongly with my teams, that I want them to be family orientated, whether that's with their children or their dogs or their partners. And that means a lot to me because that just works through. And if I can have happy teams and happy workforce, then I've got happier clients as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you got any final words on that, David?
Yep, I agree. I think I'm hoping that in 2020, 2021, more businesses will look out to a decentralized workforce. I think they'll look at how people are going to be interactive, and they'll make capabilities around having that decentralized workforce. Hopefully that will reduce costs in government and also in private entities. But yeah, I think even your coffee shops is looking at how to decentralize a number of things, such as orders.
Yeah. Well, what do they call it? Micro logistics or nano logistics, where Uber Eats, for example, where you order a coffee, it turns up at your door. That's obviously something that's happening right now. So, one of the other things that's going to come up in 2020 is 5G. They've already installed it in some locations, including here on the Gold Coast. How do you think that's going to affect us as technologists and us as general public?
Well, first of all, I'm going to speak from me personally, living out in the sticks, as you keep calling me, out in the Wild West. 5G is going to be phenomenal for me because I don't get the NBN. I get very poor internet, very poor ADSL too. They are looking at putting a 5G tower up locally, and that will really change the way I can operate from home. As it changes the lower latency, the faster speeds that everyone keeps talking about, we've got to hope that they're coming. My belief is, and everything around it proves, that we're going to get faster speeds, which means my little town out here, we will all be able to connect to one tower really easily. As we look into the businesses and the towns and the roads and how we take 5G on, every tower is going to be able to support many, many, many more devices. I don't know what the 4G connectivity rate is, but the 5G connectivity rate per tower is going to be over 1 million devices per square kilometre, which seems an incredible number until we start thinking how many devices and connected devices we're going to have connected to ourselves, to our body, to our phones, to our cars, to our fridges, to our doors, to our security alarms and everything else. As 5G comes on, all of these new capabilities are going to come flooding through the Internet of Things.
How many devices do you have in your household, do you think? Just internet-connected devices?
Internet-connected devices. We have 3 computers, 2 laptops, 3 iPads for the children's school. We have a smart TV and a couple of gaming devices as well. And for Christmas, Javi got a Apple Watch. So every day we're getting more and more devices. So that I've just rattled off 15, 20 devices probably if I went through the house.
Yeah,
You?
and probably about the same. And we've got fewer children than you do, as in 0. Our dogs don't have internet-connected devices yet. However, we could get a collar for them that was internet-connected. Yep. There's, we've obviously, I've got a few computers. There's a TV or two, 2 Apple TVs, iPads, phones. I don't have a watch. I don't wear a watch. There's no point in me buying a watch.
Why is that?
I don't wear a watch. I never really have. I've got a couple of watches that I wear when I'm traveling because they've got local time and Australian time on them. And also when I'm traveling, I tend to be a lot more on time, or there's less rigidity around what I'm doing, so I need to keep on time. But yeah, I wouldn't buy an Apple Watch. I don't think. Well, I have no reason to buy it now, or a Samsung watch, or a Huawei watch, or anything like that.
But as we move forward, I think the number of things domestically are going to really increase. So I see some form of domestic robots coming into the house.
You just want a Rosie, don't you? You just want a Rosie.
I would love a little Rosie robot going around doing my dishes, doing everything for me. But even the little carpet cleaners.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and we had a dumb vacuum that was going around doing it, but I know that you can get internet connected ones where you can map them out and you can set them off from work, for example, to clean up before you get home. And it's got a map of the house and it follows that around, and you can see where it's cleaned and where it hasn't cleaned, and wow.
Yeah, and how many people now turn on their lights or their air conditioning as they're travelling back home, or their heating? How many people turn on their cars so the car is warm by the time they get back to it? All of these things are coming more and more.
Security is going to become an issue, isn't it? Because, there's so many tales that you read in the news about, video security cameras being hacked, or I know then that there was some security issues with the Nest devices that you have at doorbells, the internet-connected doorbells. And
was it last week or the week before, we had our first laser attack on one of the speaking devices. I can't remember which one it was now, and they made the sounds and actually attacked and got it to open the front door via sending a laser through to the device.
At your house?
No, this wasn't our house. This was it's documented in the paper.
Oh, okay.
And everything in the paper is real. We know that.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that later.
But we look at what's coming on as well as the good things, the bad things. So the good things are we will all have more devices. There will be more devices around us. That
could be good or bad.
That's right. And that in turn creates more issues of their own kind, because whether we're going to be attacked, whether we're going to be hacked, or whether we have some sort of threat to our person because something that we're wearing is actually going to go against us.
Just to touch on that, have you ever been on a device-free retreat or a tech-free retreat?
I have, but only when I've travelled overseas to an island where I've wished to do it myself.
Right.
So, for example, we are going across to Fiji soon, and we are planning on not taking any tech with us at all.
Yeah, okay. I've heard of people locking their tech in the safe.
I've just had a thought. We will be taking a digital camera.
Right.
Is that tech-free?
It's not really, but I guess.
No. We will be taking
and get a few canisters of film, mate.
I've got to go back to the old chick.
Yep. No, but I'm the same as you. If I travel overseas not for work, I tend to try and, I take my phone for maps, but I don't, use it to receive messages, for example. But inevitably, you do get those messages, and it kind of ruins your holiday. I think I've only turned my phone off maybe 3 or 4 times since smartphones existed, and that's scary.
Purposely. So every Christmas we usually go camping, and when we go camping, we will take our phones for emergencies, but we will turn them off, and you will not contact us. We won't be on Facebook. We won't be on Messenger. We won't be on phone call. It's our time. And the family have an incredible time doing wonderful things.
Yeah.
Without technology. We have plans. Yeah. We're taking the kids to Fiji. We're taking the kids to Treasure Island. And I have set up 5 days of treasure maps.
Okay.
All for the kids to go berserk on and get a prize at the end of each day.
Without using Google Maps.
Without using Google Maps.
Nice.
Or anything apart from a camera.
So, I mean, 5G is going to be... I know that that they're going to be putting these towers in everywhere, and it's going to take over possibly even the NBN and things like that in Australia, where, as you said, you don't have
especially
the NBN, but you're going to have 5G.
Remote NBN, yep.
Yeah. I have the NBN. It doesn't work well. I'm on 4G at the moment. The technician came today. It dropped out about 2 minutes after he left. No,
oh dear.
We'll see. So maybe 5G will be better. Maybe it won't. I think that it's going to really affect how people use the internet, and the amount of data that it can handle will change how we do things. And I think that it's going to have a significant effect on how we use the internet and what we use it for.
And touching on things that are special to me, like autonomous vehicles that suck information and breed information unbelievably so.
Yeah.
Having this information for each vehicle, for each class of vehicle, each road, so that they can actually now start majorly talking to both themselves and to the owners will really help reduce braking. It'll reduce collision requirements because the seeing will be further and further ahead of it. Because the seeing won't actually rely on radar or LiDAR. It can start relying on data coming from other vehicles. Other vehicles,
exactly. And when you can transfer megabytes of data rather than megabits of data,
yes,
or even gigabytes or petabytes of data, you are increasing the amount of data you have and can share for those vehicles. So you could locate as an autonomous vehicle. I'd like to locate myself on the map and find out if there's any issues around me.
Yeah.
As well as all of the sensor information that's going on.
And then we move on to healthcare and things like that. So the ultra low latency or ultra reliable low latency communications components make healthcare changes, especially for rural and remote Australia or anywhere in the world, a massive spectacular to go to. Because if we can start thinking of how we can use telemedicine to the next level, we can then get robotic surgeries happening wherever they are required rather than at the major points of care.
Yeah, I agree.
So now your paramedics are looking into how they can utilise this on the back of an ambulance, using robotic surgery, there and then capabilities.
So coming back to the security question, because for me, I know that there's a lot of talk about using AI as a defense for cybersecurity. There's also a lot of information out at the moment talking about how quantum computing will disrupt the security industry because, just as an example, I think I read, a password hack by brute force would take, something like 7 years. It would take 7 minutes for a quantum computer to do that, if it were able to do that.
It's a little scary.
And that sort of thing is very scary. It's hugely scary because cybersecurity professionals are now going, we have to be thinking about how can we defend ourselves, or how can we defend networks and companies and things like that against data breaches in a world where quantum computing exists. AI in the standard realm may not be able to deal with that, but as soon as quantum computers get the ability to do AI, it's going to really change things for the worse and for the better. Even right at the moment, AI proves better than humans at securing networks, but it's not for everything.
There's going to be a lot of things that come out of this. AI will become a problem in its own right, because you'll be able to do a lot of security using AI, but then people are going to use AI to become other people. You will get more fake and really strong fake videos coming out of presidents making weird and wonderful decisions that you look at it and it looks real. It could be anywhere.
And
but
so
cybersecurity companies are really going to need to step up their game to detect AI viruses and AI malware that are really running some deep grain pattern recognition.
Yeah.
And as I said, that laser attack was actually on an Alexa that I was talking about before.
Okay. So I did have an Alexa, but I don't anymore, because every time I mentioned Alexa's name, Alexa would speak to me and tell me things, and it got kind of annoying. So
that would become very annoying.
It's now sitting in my Vietnam office where they renamed her. I don't know what they've renamed it to. I can't remember, but
I didn't know you could rename it. That's wonderful. Can I rename Google?
Yeah, I know that you can't rename SIRI. There is a talent shortage in cybersecurity at the moment, and it's going to get worse in 2020. So, coming back to what we were talking about before about remote work, I mean, I've met a lot of cybersecurity professionals who are working from, the Europeans, or they're from Australia or from the US, where they're working from the beach in Thailand, or from a hotel block in the middle of London, however it works. But those sorts of people don't work standard hours in a standard office, and they demand a lot of money because they're in short supply at the moment. The AI thing is going to really help that come along, in that we don't have enough cybersecurity professionals, but we can complement that, I think, with some AI to make their work more effective.
Saying that people worry about the robotics and the autonomous vehicles and the autonomous capability taking work away. It's something that I'm quite strong about, because we talk about losing jobs, but there are many more jobs that are coming on board. We have many more AI level jobs. We have many more telecommunications level jobs. We have the need to manufacture machinery to be able to develop the autonomous vehicles or the paints, or all of these are things that are jobs that are new jobs coming into the environment. And every time we go through this change, we have new job capabilities. But AI will become central, pivotal probably, for detecting fraud and detecting virus attacks.
Totally agree. And I think you might have mentioned to me earlier about some attacks on gas pump. We call it gas is an American thing, on the petrol pump credit card payment systems.
Yeah,
what happened there?
So that was the FPOS capability. It was proven that the quick pays on the pump themselves is using a very old technology, and they found that they can now utilize, and you're probably going out of a level that I know about, but they're utilizing the deep memory of the pump to take old payments and then steal the credit card information down to the PIN number and everything that goes through it.
Wow.
This isn't the FPOS that you see in shops. This is it was the FPOS on pumps. But now we've got AI coming about. You've got to worry about every payment you make on the internet. Here's a question. Do you have a internet payment card? So just a single card so you can cancel, or do you use multiple cards on the internet?
I have both. I have traditional cards and I have a specific internet card. Although most of our payments, I shouldn't be saying this in public, but most of our payments go on the traditional card. But I do have, for anything that, that isn't Amazon or Microsoft or Google, or trustworthy, I use an internet-specific card that I can cancel at any time and regenerate.
Do you go through PayPal much?
I use PayPal pretty much for probably 50% of our payments.
Because I've found that I'm using PayPal more and more and more now for multiple reasons. And I don't have a particular internet card. I use PayPal as my internet card, if you want to put it that way.
So let me ask you a question. Have you changed your PayPal password from ABC123?
I will now.
Have you ever had any fraud on your credit cards?
The only fraud that I had on the credit card was through a major rail company in Australia who had been hacked, and my credit card was used to purchase large sums of tickets for railcar, and apparently I was one of about 600 or 700 people that they had an open window from midnight to 6 a.m. where they had hacked the rail, and they really did it very well. They took passwords, they took credit card numbers, billing addresses. But yeah, that's the only time my credit cards, I believe, that I know of have been hacked. And I worry about my credit cards being hacked, so I look at the statements every single day online.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I've had one thing on my card from probably 15 years ago that was fraudulent. It was just someone booked some flights. The thing that I was going to talk about was I was standing in a store purchasing a gift, a wallet actually, for a friend, and I paid for the wallet and the amount went through, and my phone rang and I picked it up and I answered, and they said, "Hey Michael, it's my bank. We just noticed that a transaction has gone through twice for the same amount from the same store."
Wow.
And I was standing at the store looking at the guy going, "Did you just charge me twice for that?" And he, "Oh, sorry, sir." And he went about trying to fix that all up. And I was on the phone to the bank, so I just said, "Look, cancel the last transaction." And
do you think he meant to?
I think it was easy to, and I don't want to make
just
an
say a
assumption
gut
here.
feeling whether you think it was or not.
My gut feel is that it's something that they do regularly to foreigners.
Yep, I agree.
And then if they do get caught, it's easy to say, "Oh, I'm sorry, that was a mistake."
And the other way they do it is they put through, they say they're putting it through in AU dollars, but they put it through
in US dollars, yeah.
in the local currency or in US dollars, and then you're finding you're paying a lot more than you expected.
Yeah.
I have seen that done before.
Or my local curry store, which they did do this on. This was an accident. That instead of charging me $25, they charged me $2,500.
That's an expensive curry.
2500, and it went through as $2,500, and I wasn't even thinking. I just typed in my PIN and said okay, and then it got declined, and I looked at it. Thankfully, it got declined. I looked at it and I'm going, huh? Anyway, do you have anything else to add on the cybersecurity topic?
I think from a cybersecurity topic, I think we all need to be a lot more mindful in 2020 and 2021. I think we need to understand what payments we're making and what devices we're using. And I think we need to think about our children's toys and the connectivity of children's toys. Why does a teddy bear that speaks back to them need to know their year of birth and their address?
All right, so I hope you enjoyed this podcast. Please subscribe using your favorite podcasting software and make sure you comment and rate us because that really helps us.
It does indeed. Look after yourselves. Have a wonderful new year. Keep yourselves very safe, both from technology and from others. Look after your drinking. Drink within your capability and enjoy the year to come.
Good luck, everybody. Bye.
Bye-bye.